Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Maybe I'm Just Not Getting It podcast. I'm your podcast host, Robert Davis. Um, I appreciate all the support, engagement that I've gotten doing this. So just wanted to take a moment before we started to really just say thank you all to that, through social media, through you messaging me, your comments to me, liking, viewing, engaging with the reels and the stories and everything that's been posted. I really appreciate it. And definitely look forward to keep doing this. Um, so yeah, follow me on social media. Um, Instagram is RTD underscore III. That's three I's. And Facebook is Robert Trey Davis III. And the podcast is currently on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and iHeartRadio. If you listen to your podcast through a different medium, just let me know and I'll see about trying to put it on there as well. Um, you have to kind of bear with me today. My voice is kind of scratchy, so you may hear me clear my throat a few times. So today's topic I kind of want to talk about is Trump, and I talk about Trump a lot. I'll probably talk about Trump a lot more in the future of this show, but today I want to talk about more or less not really Trump the man, but more or less the support MAGA. I call it Trumpism, kind of the blend of the mega nationalism type of thing that he runs on. Um, and just kind of want to focus on that and how it's kind of taken a hold on us, and just the kind of the wave of it and how it's taken over society over the past 12 years at this point, um, or even more. And so, like, it's important to note that Trump is a fascinating subject. I mean, just we haven't seen much like that. Like we had, was it Reagan that was the first celebrity president, really? In terms of a former actor. But this guy that is kind of, or however you want to say it, a business mogul, quote unquote. Like I said, a celebrity, somebody who has hands in various different pockets of society, landlord or slumlord, however you want to look at that. The beauty pageant, the media, through TV shows, and the all the different celebrity connections that he has. Like he's really a figure that dips into a lot of different places into society, and to see him become so apparent in the political realm, it makes sense in the sense of somebody that's in so many different places being there too. But you just don't expect to see it because we usually have had this line between politics, or between kind of like what runs the country and what entertains the country. It's always been kind of like a line there, and that line has kind of vanished or vanquished a little bit, not even a little bit, a lot of a bit in the last 20 years or so, even before Trump. But it's important also to note that the support for MAGA, the Make America Great Again movement that Trump runs on, it's grown into a fanaticism beyond politics. It's not. I say this, and you'll hear me say this multiple times throughout this episode. MAGA is not a political statement; it's a cultural one. Political statements can go and based upon policies and stances and leaders and stuff like that. Culture is here to stay, or dies hard, I should say. I ain't gonna say here to stay, but it dies hard. And that's what a lot of that mega influence runs on. It's these deep cultural, for better or worse, or whose culture is debatable, but these deep type of ties and these deep beliefs that some people really feel like he speaks to, or he speaks for them for. And even scarier I'm not even gonna say scarier, even more impressive, quite frankly, than that, is that Mega became synonymous, or has become, I say became, it's not in the past tense, he's our current president, and only about 2 months in. But it has become synonymous with America, with the American brand. And he has made himself akin to the flag almost, and I think that sort of branding is important to note just before we start this conversation to understand how that support and how this movement has grown and how it's grown into this almost this silent majority type of thing, loud minority at first and now silent majority. Like how that has grown is because of that synonymous branding of himself with America, and also with the fact that he's become a messiah-like figure to the true Trumper MAGA support of his base. And to the rest, he's just, to some, he's a guy that's, oh, he's good for business. To some, he's a guy that, oh, he's good for keeping out the people I don't like. For some, he's a guy that, oh, I just like that he calls it how it is, or he's anti-establishment, or whatever, people use for him, because he has a kind of this amorphous type of vibe where people just kind of throw whatever they like, or they kind of make up things that he doesn't even really represent and say he does represent it for him. But he's become this like messiah-like figure to some, and it's almost like a cult. And a lot of this episode, I'm gonna be speaking more to that cultish part, more than just the fringe type. I believe in him because I think he's good for the economy. But a lot of people say, "Oh, I think he's good for this, but I don't like his politics or whatever." Trump is Trump. But I really want to talk about the real hardcore 45, 47 forever type of guys. Um, and or people, not just guys. Let me be clear about that. And then there's never been a cultish figure to this degree before. Like we've had figures come across and captivate people and audiences and stages before. And this is like McCarthyism times 10 in terms of just that realm, and that happened. That only lasted a few years. This has been going on for a long time, for a decade plus. So we have never seen a cultish figure, that kind of spread politics like that. Um, and I mean, you think about even very famous historical figures, even in a positive light, like MLK or Malcolm X or Gandhi or JFK or anything like that. I don't believe that they are really in a concept of where it became a cultish like following behind them more than people agree with their stances. Where this is more like, I believe in the man, him, I love him, like, type of thing. So, why does this matter? Well, first, I think we have to note that in hard times, generally, a nation becomes more conservative and more nationalistic than they would be in prevalent times, I should say. So when you're in times of where money is low, people are stressed, people are overworked, they feel like the country isn't working for them, they're less likely to think outward and more likely to think inward. Um, that means thoughts against immigration are usually down, thoughts against um, different types of expressive thought or different types of new ways of thinking and new ways of living life culturally are usually down. Um, People are usually a lot more conservative and due to kind of like a paranoia, and I'm just trying to keep this to myself because I can't have anything. I mean, I can't lose anything at this moment type of vibe. And so, with that being said, it's important to note that Trump came during this time where we were coming out of a recession where people were still feeling that, going into another one where people were feeling it. Still, I mean, not even going into another one, still in this recession where people are feeling it. And, we're in harder times than we had before. Inflation, even though it's gone skyrocketing now during his reign, I guess, but while it's gone skyrocketing now, it's still had been a problem in the past. We still, and these issues really came in a sense that a lot of people, well, let me say these issues were still one that a lot of people were dealing with. And when people are starting to already be kind of like, oh, I'm against immigration. I see so many people that don't look like me now. I feel like my culture is being, or my space, my place in this country is being replaced by somebody else. I don't feel as important as I once was. I feel like people pander to others, or I'm told that the way that I live is not right because I should live like somebody else lives, or somebody's telling me that my morals are now wrong because of something I don't agree with. Like this whole, like we were already, the groundwork was there for somebody to come and pick at that, but it's just masterful how he was able to kind of pick at all of it at the same time. Um, and because of that, different types of people support him. I mean, that's why, because he's in all these different debates and conversations where so many different people I might not agree with, like I was saying earlier, where people say, "Well, I don't agree with his, I don't agree. I think he's a asshole. I think he is a prick, but I agree with his economic policies." Like those sort of things where you can be wrong in one area but right in another. He's so all over it, bored about things that it's hard for everybody, or not hard for everybody, but so many different people agree with parts of that. Some people don't like his economic policies, but certain people agree with his stances on LGBTQ, or his stances on the poor, or his stances on minorities. Certain people agree with that, but they don't agree with his stance on war. Certain people agree with his stance on war, but don't agree with his stance on the economy. Like it's all over the place. But he is able to masterfully, and that support, that mega brand is able to masterfully kind of be all over the support, all over the place, and be kind of what anybody wants it to be at any given time. And because of that, it represents the solid majority theory now. When he first ran, it was more the loud minority. And I believe, there was outside factors that kind of influenced him getting to that position. But it was enough of that loud minority and enough people kind of riding the wave to say, you know what, I agree with you. I'll rock with it. Or why not? The why notters, I think, are a lot of reasons why he got elected both times, quite frankly. But the silent majority theory is that, a lot of people might say, oh, yeah, Trump is, no, that's a wild guy. But in that voting box, click, because you're allowed that privacy to do so. Ironically, the Democrats thought that that solid majority theory was in their favor, and they were shown, especially in this last election, that they were ultimately and utterly wrong about that. And so, like I was saying, his brand is synonymous now with patriotism and nationalism, right? Like, in a sense that Trump is so pro-America, and the mega brand is so pro-America that it's almost comical. It's like and we allow it to kind of exist in that comical phase of being like, we get that you're a patriot, but you don't believe in a lot of real patriotic things and the true sense of patriotism. But that doesn't matter because the brand is still patriotism, like, and so because of that, and because his brand is so in flux or intertwined with America, or America type of, of standpoint, that it's hard for it's hard for that support not to be swelling, because it's almost where people that don't support him are looked at like, oh, you don't support America because you don't support Trump, which is a dangerous kind of line to draw when you come to, that kind of dictatorship type of thinking. But that's the line that we're kind of running down at a certain point, honestly. And because of that, the fanaticism runs beyond logic, just like patriotism and nationalism can. If I truly, because we've all seen people even before Trump that just loved America. Everything was America. This America that beyond logic, or, I love being a patriot. I love freedom and liberty beyond logic. And the fanaticism for MAGA runs beyond logic. Trump is a walking contradiction for 1,000 different reasons. I mean, he is. Like he's a liar, he's a con man, he's a rapist, he has a sexual fetish for his daughter. He tries to find every single loophole, whether it be legally, business wise, contractually, or anything he can to be able to scam anybody or to short anybody on anything. He will backhand you in a second. Um, he it has a constant need for validation and attention, yet he runs on a platform of being independent and soul thinking and can't be controlled. Like it's very illogical, but to support some of this stuff, he's pro tough guy egotism in war, but he's never been to war, or military, or fight, or anything. Like, this is weird, but I mean, that's what illogicalness does. And it's important to note that why this matters is that, or why, this Trump thing is so strong in terms of that. He represents a lot of American ideals, whether good or bad. And I'm going to go through some of these in examples in a second, but like he represents a lot of our ideals, whether we think that's good or, I mean, whether it's the good ones or the bad ones out of America. And that's why that brand became so synonymous with with the American flag, the American logo, that's why MAGA became so synonymous with that, because capitalism and that kind of that bravado of America first, and that we're going to do what we want, and we're going to save our country, and that that those ideals that we really carry first keep our country American only and safety, no drugs, and those old school type of Uncle Sam type of talking points and morale points are still our base American ideals, and that's what he capitalized on, his movement being synonymous with that, and it's not a replacement for it. I think we've seen a lot of people try. I mean, it's its own type of little political party, more like, and I'll talk about that later. How it's kind of divided. It hit the mega Trump party shifted the Republican Party right, shifted the Democrat Party right, and almost created the ultra liberal party. And it's made a whole mess of it. But at the same token, there is no replacement for him. We've seen the Republicans try to recreate, to try to introduce alternatives. So you've seen them try to get off of him before. And there is no replacement for that. There's no substitution for this mega type of bandwagon. They'll lose a lot of that support, so you're kind of stuck with it. Because at the end of the day, those are your constituents. And this support has put him in a position of ultimate power. I mean, to where now he has all three branches of government on his side, and he's in the highest position pretty much in the world on his second term, where he really can't be put out. Like, and he got already 4 years of experience of knowing what he was doing, and everybody in that he wants to be in now. Like, it's put him in this position of ultimate power that I think it's crazy to think of just how we've gotten here and how that support got him there. And so examples of, I guess, of how this support is, or why this support has been so strong, or why that mega type of brand became so synonymous with America, or why it grew so I don't think it grew organically, because I do think, again, between Russia and between, the media, it was just a lot of external factors pumping into it. But even then, it has to be something there for it to pump up. And I mean, examples of what that was that, again, first off, Mega allows people to treat sports, again, it's culture, it's not politics. It's to me, it's like a sports fan. I'm a Saints fan. I don't care what the Saints do. Saints can go 0-16 to get blown out every week. I'm going to be a Saints fan. I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to talk trash about them every day. I might talk trash about every player, every coach, every organizational executive, and so on and so forth. I'm still a Saints fan. Like, and there's no discussion on that for me. And that Trumpism runs that same line. You understand what I mean? And Trump is, I mean, it's important to give him his prop on the fact that he is charismatic. He's funny. He's entertaining. And he draws people to him, different type of people to him. And it's important to note that he has a charisma to him that a lot of people cannot recreate and they cannot overcome in terms of a type of a battle of sorts or any sort of confrontation with him. And that also it draws people to him and it makes the movement that much stronger because there is no movement. Every cult leader has been charismatic. You can't be a leader without a certain charisma about yourself that makes people drawn to you. And I want to go through there's a few things I'm about to go through with Trump. And you're going to hear me say a lot the concept of pro this instead of I think Trump is, well, let me just kind of go through one. I think Trump is pro white. And I don't think he's quote unquote racist. I don't think he's old school Klansman hat in the basement racist. But I do think he's the type to look in here and be like, "Oh, it's a lot of black people in here. I don't feel safe. Get these guys out of here." But if they're rich black people, he don't care because they're rich. Oh, they're not him. They're not equal to him because yeah, you're still a black guy. But yeah, it's a different level of it. I think he's pro white, and I don't think pro white is good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think I don't think I think it's when I say pro white, I think it's more like as long as you have money, I'm okay with you being black, you know, or Mexican or something like that. But the concept of you're one of the good ones, you're one of the okay ones. He's one of those types where it's racist, but I think it's more like I'm pro white racist more than I'm anti black racist type of thing. And but that thought is still in line with the American concept of racism. And one of the core building blocks of this country. Trump is pro business and money overall. He wants businesses to be able to operate with little regulation, as freely as they can. He wants money to be flowing in the pockets, money to be flowing as much as it can. And he says he wants money to be flowing in everybody's pockets. I don't believe that's the truth. I believe it's only for those at the top. But that's the message of MAGA, and that is synonymous with the American line of capitalism, or the American thought of capitalism. That is a core concept of our country. He's pro guns, war, and bravado. That is in line with our core concept of liberty. We want to be able to, say what we want, do what we want, be as egotistical and bravado-ish as we want. We want to be able to shoot our guns, own our guns, flex our guns. And if you got a problem, America is the biggest, strongest, most sophisticated army in the world, and we will take you out. That is what we have made ourselves based upon. And I mean, since the dawn of this country. And MAGA is a strong support of that. He's pro male. And, again, I take that as I think Trump is sexist in the sense of he thinks women have a certain place that is under him, and women don't need to be talking or overmining him or trying to tell him what to do. And I think he thinks of women like objects, especially in a sexual sense. I don't think he's sexist in the sense of woman is inferior, or what, women can't be rich, or women can't have money, or anything like that, or woman's place is only in the kitchen. I don't think, because I think if you're a rich, successful woman, you'd be like, oh yeah, you're a rich, successful woman. And if you like Trump, he's definitely gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm all for whatever you want to do. But I do think again, I'm pro male in the sense of that white male privilege thing. Like I'm like, yeah, you might be a good lady and stuff, but you're not me, know your place type of thing. Same thing with what I said earlier with the black. Like I don't think he's particularly racist. I just think he's and pro white. Like I believe that I'm better than all of you. If you got money, that's cool. If you don't, you don't. But I don't think like you being black means you are crap, but I think a lot of black people are crap, and usually y'all are poor, and that's the crap people. Like I think it all kind of runs back into that, where it is racist, but it's not like Klansman racist, but it's still racist, you know. Um, and Trump is pro wealth. We talked about that a few times. That's in line again with the classism, and I think that's where he is the most stringent at. Like I believe in the fact that I love those that have money, even though. And what's so weird about that is that a lot of his supporters are poor, are the lower class, but they believe that he's also the anti, he's pro that anti-government arrogance type of thing, where it's like, oh, I want to drain the swamp, and we're going to make government more efficient. So for all of those that believe, oh, government is bad, he's anti-government, he's anti-establishment, and so for all the radicals, all the naysayers, all the paranoid, he also supports them too. All of these things, pro-establishment, pro-arrogance and ignorance, and with the egoism and the bravado, and you can just enjoy it. Like I want my president to be strong, pro-wealth, pro-male, pro-guns, war, pro-business and money, pro-white. That's everything that this country believes in. That's everything that this country, our core values of this country was built upon. And so that mega experience or that mega movement is synonymous with our country because it's synonymous with all of our cultural values. And that's why Trump has become such a strong talking point for us and such a strong influence on our country because he represents all the things, good or bad, that we as a country believe in. And the ones of us that don't believe in everything that he believes in, we are already aware of some of the of where the hard points are in this country that don't support us. And I think that's comes through in the difference of the support and his campaigns for both elections. In the first election, again, it was more like, oh, can I, it was more like a everyday kind of a joke. Um, oh, this can't really happen. I don't know. He's just saying random stuff, and it's not like it's a lot different now, but it was almost like an unseriousness about it, where people kind of looked at him was like, oh yeah, I'm supporting him, I'm voting for him just because why not? Let's see, maybe he can, maybe he can't, and we found it entertaining and all that stuff. But the second election, it became a lot more serious. I think Trump can do this. He can drain the swamp. He can really save our country. He can make the price of eggs go down, and he can get all these liberals in line, and he can do all this stuff. Like the difference in the rhetoric and the belief changed to a lot more serious concept to where people really thought he could. I say thought because he can't, in my opinion. But we'll see. That's another topic for another time. But the difference in the support between both elections and both his campaigns and everything really show the night and day of where you at first it's like we're running and can we do it? Let's hope maybe we'll win. To the second time where it's like, we know we got it. And you had all these different type of people believing in them. You saw the lines of the support, the percentages of by demographics for the people that voted for him, for even with black women, I think it was like with the highs like 92%, but like black men was like still in the 80s. Like, I mean, and then don't even get me started on like Hispanic men and women and Asian men and women and especially white men and women. Like, so we see what everybody was really feeling, and that support, is not out of those aren't people just voting because they think it's fun. Oh, or just maybe he can, maybe he can't. Those are people that really believe in at least part of what he's saying. And so that's because that mega movement grew into something that was bigger, in my opinion. And so, like, what concerns, I mean, I have plenty, but like concerns I have is that first, that mega emboldened a lot of societal dark spots for us. A lot of paranoia, racism, classism, sexism, ageism, either younger or older, demographic. And I don't like, people that live out in California. I don't like people that live in the Midwest. Oh, you people that live in Texas are rednecks. You people that live in the South are hicks. Like, it created a lot of societal dark spots for us. A lot of anger, a lot of violence, a lot of hate towards religions, a lot of hate toward people for the way that they think, hate for their political stances on both sides. And I just don't know if it has to be some coming back from that. Like we have to come back from that to some degree. Like we can't stay in that state in this contentious state forever. But I don't know how we come back from that when some of the things, it's almost like a bell has been rung that can't be, unheard at this point. And I think it's important to note that when people deal with this impact of MAGA is a tangible everyday life issue between the policy that's been enacted, the people that you see or you speak with in your everyday life that may or may not be supporters. People have lost friends and family over arguments and disagreements based upon these policies and these presidencies and these political campaigns, and it's just it's important to note that like this is real. This is tangible things. Like Trump himself, I'm not going to meet Donald Trump. I'm not walking somewhere where I'm running into him, having conversations. Like he himself is not a tangible issue for me. Things that he can do as the president is tangible. His supporters like is tangible. It's like if you work with somebody that's a supporter and they don't like you because you're not, that's a tangible issue. If you are a supporter and your boss doesn't like you because you support Trump, or if you feel like you can't speak because you aren't against MAGA and you feel like somebody's going to speak out against you, or they're going to harm you because of your religion or your sexuality or your race or something, and it's heightened because of that or it's emboldened because of that. That's all tangible issues that people can actually deal with, or people aren't actually dealing with. And that is a concern. And I don't know how, especially going forward with it just seeming like it's always increasing, how we deal with that. And the support is so extreme and illogical for him, I think, that it can't be satisfied. And I don't, and like, I know somebody's going to hear this and be like, well, no, he's doing X, Y, and Z. If you listen to Trump supporters, I spend a lot of time watching videos of people interviewing at these rallies, campaigns, his the people like the politicians that support him, their interviews with them about why they believe this is right, these particular policies or what what they're doing in their own districts, and it's so it's so much back talking and kind of illogical thought and this blind belief in a figure over any sort of concept or thought or actual belief. We believe in Trump and not anything, not what he says, not what he does, not what he thinks. We believe in him, like that. When you get to that level of support that's so extreme and illogical, it can't be satisfied. If you listen to his supporters, they think he can do and is going to do anything and everything for them. They think he's going to solve every problem under the world in the way that they think it should be solved. And for every single person, that may be different because of that amorphous type of vibe that MAGA is taking, to where, oh, yeah, we just do it, whatever you think is wrong with this country, we do too. And we're going to fix it. That has, that can't be satisfied because you can't make everybody happy. And it's going to be interesting to see what that response is when people start feeling like they're let down or their beliefs were let down. I think it's going to be a lot of anger towards him, and I think it's going to be a lot of backlash. I think he will see probably multiple attempts on his life from his own supporters still, again, because of that. And I think, what we've seen before won't be the last. Um, and also, I mean, not just when he's let down, but how will one question or concern I have is how will this kind of mega support movement fare once he's gone? Like, let's say, I mean, because one way or the other, Trump is going to be out of the picture soon. He can run, he can be in all 4 years. He can try to find a way to rewrite the Constitution and run again, make it a dictatorship, do whatever he wants. The man is pushing 80. He will be dead, and he does not want to release his health records because he knows his health is shit. He will be dead in probably in max 10 years. What happens then? Like the ending to this story is coming, one way or the other. So what happens when there's an ending? I don't know. How does MAGA handle that? Will it be backlash? Will it be regret? Will it be relief? I think a lot of people, I think it'll be a mix of all of it. How will this country, not just MAGA, but how will this country handle when he is gone? Um, and how will he be remembered? It's a concern for me in terms of will history try to rewrite this into a time that was more a better time than what it was. And I don't mean because of his politics. I mean in terms of like the turbulence, the division, the hatred, the anger in this country. Like, will we try to make that to try to overwrite that in history and make it seem like this was just all sunflower and roses? Will this whole era of Trump just be a small paragraph in our history books? Like, hey, you remember this time where this crazy guy took over and had everybody believing X, Y, and Z? Like, how will this all end? And how will it be handled when he's gone? I don't know. One thing I have a concern about is what's the new normal for politics? Again, I talked about with the parties. I mean, again, I think Trump shifted the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. The MAGA party became the ultra right, and the Republican Party had to move more right to kind of fit that. And the Democratic Party, which was left and was moving further left, had to start shifting right as well, especially towards the Kamala Harris type of reign of trying to get her in office. And that created a division between Democrats to where you had a more of an ultra left type of area as well, the ultra liberal, which is always feuding with the ultra conservative. What's the new normal? Are we always going to have these two extremes? Are we going to get back to two parties that are more in the middle-ish, like where their more extreme values are the people that believe their most extreme values are more like the outcast of that group, or are those are going to be the ones that are going to be leading, and those are going to be the ones that are going to be calling the shots? Because right now we have the outcasts on both of the ends calling the shots for the most part, or being the loudest voices, especially on the right side, because people those are the most entertaining and the most speaking the same language of that kind of Trump era of just being able to be heard in his era, I think at least. Because to be heard in his era requires a certain level of extremism and tone and your voice. I mean, like I can love Maxine Waters to death, but I can tell you a lot of what she's saying is true, but it's rhetoric. I mean, and she's been able because she's such an elegant speaker and being able to put herself and be able to say things in a way that people can understand that are against him and be able to easily understand. Same thing with like the people like Joy Reid that just got let go of CNN, Roland Martin, like because you have these people that are able to speak in a way or put things in a manner that is so easy for people to say, oh, I agree with that. That is exactly what is wrong. You know, that those exist, but it's still, I mean, that sort of discourse, it changes the level of discourse. It changes where we're at. Like with I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. With Trump, the 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 climate of political discourse changed for the worse. Like it became less civil and more personal, a lot more attacking, a lot more comical, a lot more lies, and just flat out saying whatever. And I think that has to be, is that is does that stay the same once he's gone? Do we go back to having more civil, professional, you know, educated conversations? Or are we back in kind of still this kind of sandbox politics type of realm? Are the Republican and Democratic parties going to go back to kind of being in the middle and letting the extreme type of talking points and things that people can relate to, because everything is so extreme now, be kind of like to the back part of it? Or is that still going to be up in the front? It's interesting to know where politics goes from here. And even on that, what's the new normal for our society, just as a whole? How do we, because everything has become so divided through Trump, through MAGA, through just everything that we've gone through in the past 10, 15 years. What's the new normal for our society after all of this? Do we do we go back to any sort of racial relation? How do we reform that? How do we reform relations between different religions in this country, or different sexualities, or the LGBTQ, and understanding that? Like, how do we do all of these things? Because we have to. Like, what's the new normal for all of this once he's gone? Because some of this is going to die down. Like, is it going to change? Is it going to be a new standard? Is somebody else going to come along? Like, what is going to happen? And who knows what the new normal for society is? But it's very interesting to think about. And the biggest concern, it's not the biggest concern, but one really big one that I have is, I think we ask this question in a lot of different ways. Is this America's real face? Is MAGA a representation? I've talked about how it's a representation of a lot of the core ideals of this country, and a lot of the core um, perceptions, and a lot of the core pieces of this country. Like, I've talked about how MAGA and this nationalistic movement, this Trumpism type of movement, is being representative of just a lot of our core elements and our core building blocks that we build this country on. Again, with the with the building on kind of the elements of racism, building on sexism, classism, wealthy, wealth first, everything that we've talked about, guns, liberty, war, business. Um, with all of those being said, is this really a representation of the true face of this country? Or are we, this country that is supposed to be the melting pot where anybody can come and make a name for themselves as long as they do a good work, do a hard day's work and live by the rules, and we're loving of one another and their thoughts and their opinions and their religions? Like, is that the country, or is it this other country that we keep saying that we're not any longer, but it seems like we still are? And so, to conclude, Trump is definitely a galvanizing figure, like a once in a lifetime type of person. Obviously, like, we've never seen this sort of fixation before, at least in this lifetime again. And that message that got him to this point was based upon nationalism and patriotism and the good and the bad that comes with that. And so it turned his supporters to believing in his message again as a cultural statement and not a political one, because they believed him. He saw them and he spoke for them in a way that he represented their lifestyle, not just what they believe should be their government should be doing. And that's where some of that diehard support, or a lot of that diehard support, comes from. And it's important to note that, the impact of Trump and MAGA changed America forever. Like, again, whether it's whether in 50 years or 100 years, this is a small paragraph in a textbook for history, or whether this is, a 5 chapter story, he's changed our country in this moment in time forever. And I'm just interested in knowing how this all ends. Because again, one day, whether he runs for president a third time, blah, 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 he's going to die. And there's not another Donald J. Trump. His sons aren't him. So what happens when that happens? Like, where does this country go? What? I don't know. And I think it's going to be very interesting to find out. So thank you all again for tuning in to the Maybe I'm Just Not Getting It podcast. I'm your host, Robert Davis. Again, follow me on social media, RTD _ III, Facebook, Robert Trey Davis III. Again, the podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. I can put it up on any other medium that you get your podcast from. Just let me know. And yeah, I appreciate y'all. Got, I think, one more episode left in the season before we take a break for a while. And yeah, follow me again. You'll probably should see some more stuff on social media coming out soon. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Peace out.